The Peace Dependency Podcast is brought to you by Total Red NES. Shop your Goofy Food Controller TWO merch and CTWC approved hardware on TotalRedNES.com. Welcome to the Peace Dependency Podcast. I'm your host, Frank, also known as Sir Mason. Today on the show we have someone who didn't think that a certain barrier would be broken by a human player. He saw the glass ceiling and broke right through it, reaching the true colors of NES Tetris. Yes, of course, I am talking about Fractal161. Besides the PAL glitch color run, we also talked about learning the rolling technique, CTWC, and should there be a Linecap in NES Tetris? This is our conversation. Fractal, welcome to the Peace Dependency Podcast and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, first question is always the same question for everyone who's new at the podcast, and that is, how did you get into NES Tetris?
I remember discovering the videos for the first time, I believe, during the summer before my sophomore year at summer camp.
And which year was that?
I want to say this was 2016 because, or maybe it was the summer before my freshman year. Because I remember I saw those videos, and then the next year at the same summer camp, I saw the 2017 videos. And then watched all of those. And then I think I had been watching the videos for a while, but what actually inspired me to start playing was when I discovered that a friend of mine had completely independently discovered the videos himself.
Oh.
So we watched the 2018 championships together, and then he started sending me screenshots of his achievements, which at the time were the amazing accomplishments of getting to level 23. At level 22 for the first time, and I was like, wait,
Nice.
I want to do this. So I started playing on a Flash emulator.
Oh wow, not even Meson or Mestopia, just a Flash on the internet.
Right, so I actually had a Chromebook at this time, so I couldn't download any emulators. I played on that for maybe like close to like 6 to 8 months, and then I got FCEUX.
And that friend that's independently of you got those NES Tetris World Championship videos. Is that friend still active in the community, or?
He stopped like right after he got a max outs, which was like maybe like mid 2019, I want to say.
Is he on the max out list?
He is not on the max out list, unfortunately. I don't think he would want to be. He was never involved in the community. But he doesn't play classic, but he plays a lot of modern right now, and he's really, really good at it.
Have you ever tried modern Tetris, or always stick to classic
Oh
Tetris?
yeah, for sure. I've spent a lot of time playing mostly the single player modes, since they're just very like easy to just get started.
Yeah.
After like classic Tetris, I think the mode that I have the most amount of time in is the 40-line sprints. And my PB in that is, I think, 21.3 or 21.5 seconds.
I always thought that's so impressive.
Right. I think getting fast at that has also helped my brain for classic Tetris, just learning how to react more quickly.
But were you already playing Tetris games before you got into classic Tetris?
Not seriously. Like, the most was just, like, maybe playing a bit of, like, Tetris.com.
Yeah.
And just trying to go for, like, consecutive Tetrises.
So how did you came into the community then?
I came into the community, I think, like, very quickly after I got my Discord account for the first time.
Yeah.
It was one of the first 2 servers I joined. I stayed, like, fairly silent, I think, and then I remember, just, like, I seriously, like my first post, I think, was regarding this fan Tetris game which had this like really like weird mechanic called Tetramino slide, where
Yeah.
if you press left and you pressed right, all the pieces like currently on the board would move to the left and the right also.
All right. Oh,
Yeah, and
wow.
then I think I just started like posting achievements, like posting max outs and everything. And then that was just how I started talking.
Because you got your first max out in November 2019. You're officially the 79th max out player. You started playing on an emulator.
Yes.
Did you get any help by achieving that max out, or was it all finding out yourself?
I never asked for advice at that point from the community because I wasn't like part of the Discord server.
Yeah.
And I suppose I did it all by myself. I found the Tetris concepts forums pretty early,
Yeah.
which is where like a lot of people like sort of talked about shared scores and some techniques. So I learned DAS just sort of by piecing together things that I found online.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story about that. For the longest time, I didn't actually realize that you could keep DAS just by not moving the piece until it fell. And I thought that you had to like wall charge every single piece every time.
So it was an eye opener when you realized you didn't need to wall charge everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So you played on emulator. When did you move to playing on a console, and how did you get everything for that you needed for a console?
The time frame on this is a bit weird. I remember like getting console for the first time in preparation for CTWC.
2020.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be the year. Because it was online, I figured that I'd actually like be able to play in it
Yeah.
with like my skill level, and so I think it was around August or September that I started looking for parts. I think I got everything in the conventional way that people
Mm-hmm.
do, just like scouring eBay and Facebook Marketplace. So I got my console from just I think Amazon seller.
Yeah.
First one that I got, the cartridge wouldn't like push all the way down, so I had to stuff a sock in order to get the
Okay.
pins to work. Yeah, and then I guess the Tetris cartridge and Game Genie were also from eBay. For the CRT, there was actually a collector close to Dallas where I live adjacent to. So
Mm-hmm.
we were able to like just get it from him, not have to worry about shipping.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
I don't remember when I got my EverDrive, but it was I want to say like several months later.
how was it transferring from an emulator to a console?
It was extremely difficult for me at first because my timings had gotten consistent enough so
Yeah.
that the 1 or 2 frames difference of lag made a huge impact on level 19, where every time I tried to wall charge, I would shift early by exactly 0 or 1 frame, 1 or 2 frames. So I had to teach myself how to get to the new timings, which is like really difficult because it just feels like you're pressing buttons at the exact same moments.
Was it a bummer to relearn pretty much NES Tetris?
Well, it isn't really relearning because I had all the stacking knowledge already, and that's by far the most important parts.
Yeah.
I think just like now I would probably the process would be a lot quicker because I know what I need to practice, but it's just more or less setting up spins over and over again just to like try keep attempting until you figure out the timings, just like forcing yourself to like pause for a bit.
Yeah.
But once that was over, I remember improving like really, really quickly after that. And as an added bonus, I was actually tapping faster on controller than I ever did on keyboard.
Oh wow, that's not what you hear a lot. Most people can tap faster on a keyboard than on a controller.
Yeah, for sure. Like even now when I like try and like play around with emulator stuff, if I'm ever testing out a game GD code or a hack,
Yeah.
I try tapping on keyboard and it just feels worse.
So what was your average hertz that you could tap?
On keyboard, I remember being able to clear like 7 or 8 left on 19. And
Yeah.
on console, once I got into the swing of things, I could clear 9 left very consistently, sometimes hit 10 left. So
Yeah.
this was maybe the 13 to 15
Yeah.
range. I think this is different from most tappers. I'm different from most tappers in that I cannot maintain this speed consistently at all. So I have to rely on just the extra push that you get when you only need to tap 5 times.
Oh yeah.
I think Aaron, I've seen in action, he'll start tapping like way before the piece spawns, and he can just keep up that speed. I don't really have that luxury, so I just have to like make sure to time very precisely. So it's just learning a different skill.
You need to nail those 5 taps to the left side.
Indeed.
And did you use DAS before you started transferring to console, or was it already tapping when you started playing on console?
I definitely used a lot of DAS. I think I wanted to try and like see how far I could get to it because I really could not tap on keyboard at the time.
Yeah.
It's one thing that hurt me was that I'm left-handed naturally, but I was playing with the arrow keys on my right hand, and it never occurred to me that I could like switch everything around. So I had to train my less controlled right hand to tap.
You still play hybrid, right? You used to play hybrid, like DAS on 18 and then tapping on 19.
It's not quite that clear cut. My strategy has always been like dash every single piece until I get high or I want to make a cool adjustment, and then I use tap for that.
Why is that?
Because dash is nicer. I don't have to move my hands as much, and it still covers like literally 90% of all cases.
Yeah. But do you need to switch grips when you're playing DAS and tap?
No, and this is a consequence of me learning both on keyboard.
Yeah.
So I use a grip where I have 2 fingers on the directions and 2 fingers on the buttons. And
Yeah.
this was the closest I could get to just like simulating the keyboard experience on there. So I just push with each finger and then tap whenever. There's no grip switch there. When I switch to rolling, there's a very dramatic one,
Yeah, you
which
need
I
to.
suppose we can get to later.
We'll get to later. Yeah. You had your max out in 2019, but you hasn't played an official match yet. Your first official match was a friendly match against the Asian.
Yeah, during deathmatch.
Deathmatch, yeah. And then you qualified for CTM. You made it to the challenges bracket, first round, also against the Asian. You won in the
Yep.
decider. Then you went up quarterfinals against Adam. You lost, and then
Yeah.
the month after, April, you made it to the final and you almost won it. Was that the moment where you're like, I can do this, I can play this game good on a competitive level?
I remember being happy with my very first match against the Asian because I got the incredible scores of like 500, 600, and 700
Yeah.
all in a row, which was like consistency at the time. What I think was really, really helpful for me and like helping my nerves was the second match against the Asian because that game 5 was actually my first max out on stream, and it was in competition, and it just felt very good.
I think max outs who are live or playing in competition are more special than max outs that you record locally.
Oh, certainly, they're much more rare.
So you have been vocal about players that they need to stream more of the practice session or more of their world record attempts.
Yes, this is an opinion I have.
Why is that?
I think I see like other communities where the top players will be streaming all their attempts. In fact, in like some places, it's even the requirements.
Yeah.
And I think that if like we could like encourage this community to adopt a similar thing, we'd have like more content on Twitch, for example, which I think would be nice.
Yeah.
And also, I do feel there's like a bit more legitimacy to some of the claims.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that I'm a complete hypocrite in this manner because I play offline plenty of times without recording, and that is completely on me to change.
But if you get a personal best or if you get a world record and you play offline, you don't record it, do you claim it?
So I think there is a story that I have that's I think sort of represents this question, and this was my first 1.3,
Yeah.
which I achieved when I was in a Discord call with friends, so I didn't really feel like recording at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember, yeah, I tried to once I got it,
Mm-hmm.
my idea was that like I would show my entire setup just to show that's like I was playing on like an original on the original ROM, and that's my console was like connected and everything.
Yeah.
What ended up happening was that I unplugged my console on accident
No.
before I could get even a screenshots of score
Oh
because I
man.
wanted to show the top outs. So I
Oh
don't even
boy.
remember what the last three digits of it were.
Oh.
So I obviously like couldn't claim that, and this is how I feel in general. Like I'll say it, but also make it very obvious that like I wasn't recording and that you should choose to trust it or not.
Do you think, in your opinion, that a world record is a world record if it's A, streamed live, or B, it's in a match, and anything else is not an official world record?
I think that's you can absolutely have world records when you're just playing on your own and not in a match because that's I think how a majority of people play games nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it absolutely counts. I think there's a special place for like competitive world records,
Yeah.
but still like it's like still like very very like good to like get something on your own because you're spending a lot of time to get a very special score
Yeah.
regardless. I do think that's they should be like recorded at least in order to have a serious claim. That's another issue entirely.
By July 2020, we knew that CTWC was going to be online. Was that the moment you already had your console, or was that the moment that you were going to buy a console?
That's around the moment when I decided to buy a console. It was still like a massive like investments of money at the time, and I wasn't really sure how seriously I want to take it, but
Yeah,
it's CTWC.
exactly. I mean, that's the sole reason why I signed up for CTWC twice in a row. I knew I wasn't going to make it with my personal best at the time and my personal best last year, but just be a part, saying that you qualified for the World Championship, or in your case, you played twice during the World Championship. It's
Yeah.
something special, I guess. And 3 months before CTWC 2020, you played 24 matches. You joined CTL in Division 2. You barely missed a playoff promo spot by 1 point. So I guess long story short is that you were ready for CTWC 2020.
For sure.
Did you have any goals set before CTWC?
Get into the prize pool, I think for the most part.
So top 16.
Top 16, yeah. I
Yeah.
wasn't really like a top player at the time. Like I mean like absolute top like the people who would consistently make masters.
Mm-hmm.
Like each time I had at the time, it was like barely just by some great coincidence.
Yeah, you qualified as seed number 21. You got placed in a tough bracket with, once again, the Asian, Doge, Quay, Cheese, Caraboso, Aaron, and Animalaus. What did you thought when you saw that bracket for the first time?
I thought that I might have a chance at breaking out of it.
Yeah,
These were all people that's I had like seen like compete for a while now. Like Doge in particular, I had faced off against multiple times.
yeah,
And I felt confidence in my skill to beat everyone except for really Cheese. Because Cheese was kind of an enigma. I had never played him before.
a little bit into the unknown when you faced off against Cheese. You ended up playing Cheese 3 times during that group bracket.
Yeah.
You first defeated Scotto and Doge in the first 2 matches. You ended up facing Cheese, and Cheese defeated the Asian in a sweep, and the Asian was, don't want to say favorite to in the group, but was the highest seed of that group.
Sure.
So both of you were fighting for a spot in the finals, and you lost that match against Cheese 3-1.
Yeah.
So getting close to that final spot, how tough was it to lose a match like that?
It was, I think, really, really draining. I remember one of the matches, I had like 600k post and lost because my pre-transition was really bad. I think that took a lot out of me.
I mean, if you play 3 times against one opponent, and especially if you play the finals, first defeat cheese in the finals 3-2, then you play another decider match.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you lost there, but you played like 4 matches, including the one against Quaid in the loser bracket finals. I think
Yeah,
4
I
matches
think
within 3 hours or so.
right. Yeah, I think I was one of the players who played the most amount of matches in the
Yeah.
each of the top 8 sub brackets.
So how hard is it to focus when you know you're in the loser bracket and you know when you lose you're out?
I think the streams indicates this difficulty really well because during my first 2 games, I'm just like laughing a lot. Like I was talking to a friend the entire time, and then the last like 2 games, I was very visibly like shaken and like
Yeah.
yelling at the game a lot because just because I felt that pressure. I think playing a lot of matches in one day is like very draining on me, and I play significantly worse at the end. And this was not the last time we saw this pattern.
Yeah. Fortunately, yeah. So then you go back to the finals. You have to beat Cheese twice. What's the
Yeah.
mindset going into a finals, knowing that you lost already once, and now you have to defeat that same person twice?
Just survive, get to the end of each game because and it didn't work out too well because there were so many early top outs and that sets. I think we might have both been tired.
Are those top 64 brackets, are these too long? Do they need to split them up over 2 days?
I think they did the best that they could. I think like being able to be this consistent over a lot of time is a completely valid skill. So
Yeah.
I would not really change how it's done.
So overall, you're happy with how CTWC 2020 went?
I did achieve my goal, my initial goal of getting into the prize pool. So yeah, I think given how everything went, it was very good. And like just because I managed to like win my my grand finals match and force the bracket resets, I ended up placing 9th out of everybody in the top 16, which was really
Oh,
cool.
that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
After CTWC 2020, did you start playing more NES Tetris, or were you like, oh my god, this game is tiring, I need to take a break?
I think I had already been playing a lot before, so it was just more of the same. I think around that time I started trying to go for 1.3.
That was your main goal then?
Probably just because I had seen like back then the leaderboard had a lot of people in my eyes, and I thought that I was capable.
But did you have any goals set that you wanted to achieve before CTWC 2021, or did you want to win any tournaments, or what were your goals for 2021?
I wanted to win Masters, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get 1.3, and I don't remember if I had drought hack world record at this time, but I've definitely wanted to go for that. But
I
other than that, I think I just liked playing the game, so I just kept playing it.
never got tired of the game.
Maybe for like a week at most, or like a day, realistically.
You do so much with NES Tetris. If you're not playing, you have trained an AI, or you're still training an AI to
I
play
have
NES Tetris.
never, I've never trained an AI that's able to play NES Tetris. Back, I guess during like the winter of 2020, I was experimenting with the idea, but I never took like the final leap and made a full thing. Yeah, I did technically create Stack Rabbit on accident. Like this is like not actually true, but what happened was I was following in the steps of an existing like AI concepts
Yeah,
that wasn't fits for playing entire games, but was fits for like playing games where you try not to make holes and you just try and upstack as much as possible cleanly.
yeah,
So I like followed this methodology and just for myself, just to truly learn it. And I got the results I wanted, and I was able to use these to start answering basic stacking questions. But it wasn't fits for real AI. So Greg took notice of what I was doing, and then
yeah.
he took the data that I had created and added a lot of other stuff, like just so much other stuff. and this
Yeah.
was Jackrabbit was made.
I mean, I looked at your Discord server and you found 512 Game Genie codes or something like that.
Yeah. That was just another side thing, not necessarily AI, but I do love ROM hacking. That is definitely something I want to do more of.
And then not only NES Tetris or
I think just Tetris at the moment, because I like knowing so much about this, like the obscure mechanics of the game for now, and I think I'm just not really interested in any other retro game, if I'm being completely honest.
what makes it that you're so interested in the game mechanics and everything else of NES Tetris?
That's a really good question, and it's probably the heart of like why I play so much and why I'll like keep playing probably for years to come.
Yeah.
Like it started out just like as like a desire to like beat my friend
Yeah.
at the game, even though like he was like really far ahead. So I just like kept playing in the hopes that like I could surpass him. I never did until like he quit because he was just good. But like eventually, like so then that was like what led me to want to like understand everything about the game.
Yeah.
And then I think at some points this led to me wanting to like create tools for the game so that other people could maybe use. And I think this has not yet happened to a great extent because everything I've created has just been like one-off jokes or something that
Like
only I've ever used, but
like
that
what,
could
for
change in the
example?
future. Like my ROM, like the two ROM hacks that I've created,
Yeah.
the two big ones are one that replaces the piece counts with piece percentages.
Yeah.
This was just something I did to learn ROM hacking, but it's not something I think anybody's ever used, including myself, really, after I finished it.
Yeah, is it useful to know how many percent Lombards you get during a game or how many percent J or L pieces you get during a game?
I think it's more convenience than anything else. You can technically get this information by yourself just by averaging the piece counts and doing the math in your head. And this is what most people do at a subconscious level because they have an idea of how many bars to expect at certain stages.
Yeah.
Just if you look at the statistics enough. So it's like maybe convenience, but like also not the most useful. And I think it's just something that I wanted to try. I wanted to try out at the time.
Yeah.
And the second big ROM hack that I've made is SRS, which is the modern rotation system in NES Tetris.
Just to screw with everyone that you see, it's NES Tetris, but I could do T spins all over the place, just like
Yeah,
modern.
yeah, yeah. And these are all just for fun, so like maybe not necessarily useful per se. And then
Yeah.
I've made like other like smaller ones on the side. I suppose one that might become useful in the future is a quick one that I made to limit the abilities of tapping. And
Yeah.
I've been using this to play in the DAS only tournaments.
You play the tap style or the rolling style in the DAS only tournament, but it only goes to what is it, 10 or 12 hertz? What DAS is?
Not quite. So if the ROM detects that you have two inputs that are closer than 10 hertz apart,
Yeah.
it just completely eradicates the second one. And I
Okay.
need this because when I recover from like lost DAS or like a quick tap, I just tap mindlessly.
Oh,
And
it's like
that's
automatic.
right, just because that's the way I play most of the time. And that's kind of unfair to people who are trying to stick with pure DAS or don't have the speed that I do.
Yeah. But it's an interesting one to. I think it can be useful in the future. Not only for DAS only tournaments, but also for limiting tapping or limiting rolling to a certain kind of hertz.
Yeah.
If it needs to be to go that way.
Right. And speaking of this, I am working on another ROM hack right now. Just a personal project, and I
Yeah.
think this one has the ability to completely change the game.
What is it?
I will not. I want to keep it a secret for now. So.
Oh man, you can't tell me and then not say it.
Then, I want to reveal it when it's in a more polished state, but I'm just very excited about this.
Is it something that will change competitive Tetris, or is it something that will change scoring Tetris?
It could be both. Like it's kind of just a new way of like thinking about the game while still retaining all of its core mechanics.
Yeah.
So I
Because
have that. I have that in preparation. I have not worked on it in weeks because of school, but I'm on break right now, so maybe I can pull it all together.
on that, you triggered my curiosity. Because now I'm thinking with rolling, and we'll get to it, to your PAL world record, which is NTSC world record right now, and with the top players. Don't want to say it's getting, they get it constantly, but it's a 1.4, 1.5 is getting less rare in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
So I do think changes are necessary. To not have one game go for 15-20 minutes, because I'm not interested in seeing that.
Right. And to be fair, I do think there's a lot that could be done with the game as it is.
Yeah.
And this ties a lot to my belief and advocacy for Linecap.
What is your opinion on moving this game, or moving the competition forward from now on?
I think I've made it no secret that I'm a very heavy supporter of this. And the main reasoning behind my position is that I believe that as a community, we're in a dramatically better place in terms of understanding this game and what it's capable of
Yeah.
than the people who created it. So
Yeah.
I think knowledge of like what's interesting and what's possible, we can like enforce restrictions and change rules that keep the game interesting and not really keep the game interesting so much as like enforcing a higher level of play. The reason that I think that's creating a line cap is good is
Yeah.
because eventually, like maybe months down the line, it will incentivize people to go for as many Tetrises as possible on level 29.
Instead of lining it out.
Right. I think this could lead to some really, really interesting dynamics. All right. It's not meant to like nerf rollers when like playing against other tappers. It's meant to make rolling. It's meant to make kill screen with rollers
Yeah.
versus rollers incredibly exciting because they'll be forced to like trade Tetrises all over the place, knowing that there's a time limit. I'm interested if you are willing to say what your thoughts on a line cap are.
Like I said, I think getting the 1.5s and the 1.4s are getting less rare. I'm not interested in what we sometimes see with PAL matches, when you go to 19 speed on PAL Tetris. You have matches that basically lines it out to level whatever, 40 or something like that.
Right.
For me as a commentator, or for me as a viewer, if it's not close between the two players, it's not interesting to see. I think that those things are you should have them for when you go for score attack or something like that, where you go for a personal best, or for a line world record or something like that.
Right.
But I do believe indeed, if you have a line cap and the best rollers are capable of getting consistent Tetrises on 29, you should go for it, or at least train for it, and go for it. But what should be the line cap? At what line should it end?
I think this answer is like always going to be completely arbitrary, but I've always been a fan of 100 lines because it mirrors how the 19 how the 19 speeds work.
Yeah, you
But
go one more.
maybe we want to give more weight to the earlier portions of the game. So maybe a shorter line cap would be better just for looking at score. I think there's a lot of questions that could be decided, and like when making a new rule as arbitrary as this,
Yeah.
you can't do something perfect. But like I want to like just start this discussion as soon as possible.
Someone told me, I don't know if it wasn't on the CTM server or somewhere else, that they like to see the line cap where it ends when you theoretically get 750k on post. Like you can get 750k on 18, you can get 750k on 19, and then wherever 750k on 29, and that's the line cap. So 75, 80 lines, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, I like that idea.
So you get in theory 2.2 million scores. That's the max that you can get. No one is perfect, so we won't get it.
Sure.
So I think that's... I thought that was reasonable. So you get 3 stages of 750k and see where your advantage is.
Yeah. I think initially I did not like this idea as much, but right now I can really see the appeal.
What changed your mind?
Or just I think this discussion that we're having right now, just like thinking about like in terms of like how do we balance 29 play with 19 and 18.
Yeah.
I will say that it is so much harder to get perfect like 29 score than it is to get perfect 18 or 19.
Yeah.
So I think if we wanted to balance the curves for like realistically how many points do you score for each level at each stage, you might want more 29 lines, but we can figure this all out later. Nothing's set in stone.
I think my main concern is that you put too much weight on 29 and that 18 and 19 will be less important.
I can see where you're coming from, for sure, and I think I do share this concern. But on the other hand, we also have a situation where the end of the game is just worth so much more.
Yeah.
Even like for tappers who might not be able to make it really far past 29. Because Tetrises are just worth crazy amounts proportionally.
It's true. It's true.
So, yeah, it's kind of weird. I've started questioning the scoring formula recently just because it doesn't seem well suited to what the current meta is like with scaling and all. I think scaling is kind of cool, just maybe a bit too extreme. I don't know if like surviving that long should really be is really like justified by like the absurd increase in points.
Yeah.
But that's how the game's designed, so maybe that's how we play it.
Is it something that we'll see this year in 2022 that we'll play matches, or that a tournament organizer is pulling the trigger that they will play with a line cap?
Different tournament organizers will be considering it for sure, just because we have so many tournaments now.
Yeah.
And I think right now, I feel like it will not make a difference to current tournament play, just because we're not really at the level where like 100, where people like 100 lines of kill screen is like needed to make a difference in the match versus like say only 50.
Yeah.
But I still would like to set the precedent early because I think knowing what to expect when preparing for competitive is important.
Agree. Yeah. And especially with the changes that have been happening over the last couple of months. Like we went from excitement that Hydrant Dude got a 1.6 to, I believe, a couple of months later, Cheese got a 2.2.
Yeah, for sure.
So we don't know where this game will end up, and maybe you need to be, maybe you don't want to risk it. and get lopsided matches.
Part of my purpose for playing PAL as much as I did was just to demonstrate the extent of what was possible and what could be possible on NTSC in the future when people get better.
Total Radness! Yo, this is Steve DeLuca of Total Radness, home of the Tetris World Order.
Bringing order to a chaotic world.
Ready to get rolling on the right side? Dominate the D-pad with a goofy foot controller. Visit TotalRadNES.com to score a controller modded by the inventor, me. We've also got TWO gear, CTWC approved hardware, and a ton of additional retrospective madness. Tune in to twitch.tv/Total Radness to watch Quaid and I take the BLV to 11. Also, don't miss the other homies at Aaron Jazamoki for the Boom Tetris house parties with the Kitchen Dwellers. And at Classic Vomps for those classic Tetris snugs. Be the best and keep it TWO for life.
We will return to the conversation with Fractal in a minute. But first, if you like the Peace Dependency Podcast, help us grow. Please share the podcast with every classic Tetris fan. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Peace Dependency. You can like our Facebook page, Peace Dependency Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will have all the podcasts uploaded at full length. Also, you can listen to the Peace Dependency Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Join the Tetris Friendly's Discord server. Besides the fact that it's the place to discuss anything PDP, you can also participate in some lovely friendlies or put your ELO on the line in the various ELO battles. If you are on the Tetris Friendly Discord server, make sure to ask for a PDP role so you won't miss anything. If you have a suggestion we need to have on the next Peace Dependency Podcast, let us know through the socials or our Discord channel. Now, let's go back to the conversation with Fractal, where we will be talking about being a captain in Classic Tetris Gauntlet. I want to go back to the beginning of 2021. You became a captain of the Drywellers, a team that played in Classic Tetris Gauntlet.
I did. That was some of the most fun I've ever had playing this game.
For those who don't know, what was it to be like a captain of a Gauntlet team? What were your duties? What was the tournament structure or the season structure looking like and all that?
Okay, so the way that the first season of Gauntlets, of Classic Tetris Gauntlet Ignition was organized was that it was the first, I think, large-scale competition to have teams where players would play head-to-head and captains would play at the ends. All right, in order to balance the teams, we had to pick drafts roughly by PB.
Yeah.
And as a captain, I was in charge of scheduling with the other teams, which is a special challenge for us because instead of like having to schedule for yourself, you have to go for like 3 or 5 people. And my team in particular had a lot of different time zones. So
yeah, your team consisted of Milchak, Pooh, Aaron, Vince, Balba, and Morlando.
Right.
So 3 from, I think Pooh is from the United States, 4 from the United States or North America. Milchak was from Europe, Balba was from Asia.
Yeah, so I think that was the extent of it. Everything else we more or less like discussed equally.
Yeah.
But I will say that the actual matches themselves were just so fun because everybody participating would get into a Discord call and we'd all just talk the entire time.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So you really became a team there.
Yeah, for sure. And I am kind of sad that I'm not playing in it this year, but part of the reason why I was able to last year was because I was taking a gap year and had the time.
Yeah.
And that just isn't possible right now.
So, as a player during the Ignition season, you had the best record. You had 9 wins, 2 losses. As a
Yes,
team, you finished 4th in the regular season, I guess. I think.
we did. Yeah.
And then you lost in the playoff against the Wavy Ones. What was it like to play all your matches in the regular season and then you knew you? It's like most American sports. You have your regular season and then you have the postseason. You have your playoffs.
Right.
Was it special to play in a playoff match?
I think for all of us, it was just the same mentality.
Yeah,
Not like we ever thought that we could afford to lose. I remember the scheduling was especially hard for the match against Ian's team.
because of time zones and all that.
Right. There's just something about that matchup that just didn't work out well.
But overall, what do you think of the concept like what Shocking has been doing with the Classic Tetris Gauntlet since 2021? And would you return in the future as a captain once again?
Well, I don't think I would return just because college is like kind of consistent, like use of time,
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. I think like I will say like again that I had a very good time playing with gauntlets, but I still feel a bit weird about like team formats or
why is
like
that?
the match formats. I think the length of time that like you're expected to be available is an issue. There were, I think, no shortage of scheduling
Mm-hmm.
and technical difficulties. I think captains matches might be given like a bit too much weight,
Yeah,
which I suppose is like the intent, and then just like scheduling in general just like might not be feasible. Might not be feasible the entire time. It's a really difficult. It's a really difficult thing to go for.
it's like a 6 month season. I mean, the longest we knew about a competition was Classic Tetris League. There was 6 weeks max.
Right.
You had to play 10 to 12 matches in those 6 weeks. But this is like a full on season, 6 months postseason. It's a lot
It's
indeed.
a lot, sure.
But I do love the concept, and it's great to watch the matches. And I follow the Dutchies who are playing. It's amazing. The month leading up to CTWC 2021, it pretty much couldn't have gone better for you, Fractal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You won CTM Masters in August. You won CTL Division 1 in September. In my opinion, those two are the top two competitions online. And you won it back to back.
Yeah, it was a really good experience. I think I remember like playing like really well. This was before I was experimenting with rolling on the side, I suppose, but it was I think the culmination of like all of my skill with tapping that I had been building up over that past year.
Were you using rolling during the matches, or was it still in the learning phase?
It was, I mean, it's always in the learning phase, let's be honest.
I mean,
It was never a factor in any of these matches. Or no, that's not true. I had been practicing my grip switch at the time, and I did chase down Jerpy Dude in one
Yeah.
match that I think I ended up losing.
I mean, it's if you say it's always in a learning phase. Once again, if you look at your Discord, you're pretty open about what you need to fix or your checklist about rolling, like sitting upright, lotion on your hand, back
Oh yes,
of the
yeah.
controller, and all that. It's obviously for yourself, but it is also for other people who can experiment with it, what you're going through, so they can probably use it, what you are using.
It's a bit like yes and no to that. It's like on the one hand, I've noticed that like there are like maybe like a couple of people who use grips similar to my own, and everybody else picks a more popular grip. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, I do think like a lot of the variables that I have experience with and like just like knowing there's these differences do apply to everybody to some extent.
Yeah.
So my philosophy is that knowing these variables and knowing like these are things that could affect your play and these are things that you should experiment with are important. I think I would want to make a rolling tutorial at some points that just goes over all these variables. It would be less about like here's the grip, this is what you do, here's how you roll. I want to go through like the learning phase like different drills that I used in the beginning to like build up consistency, and just go over all the variables. Like think about changing this, think about changing that. Not like you want this variable to be at X, you want that variable to be at Y.
So how did you heard about rolling for the first time?
The first time that I heard about it was when Cheese posted, and I quote, 9 left on 29 in the Discord, and didn't say anything else. So then I asked around about that, and then I heard that like, oh yeah, somebody like knew what he was doing, but it wasn't something that Cheese wanted to reveal.
Yeah.
And then I think Cheese posted for the first time a pretty lengthy list of like finger orders that he had been experimenting with and what worked, and that was like everybody's first introduction to it. So I thought that I might try and learn it at some points. It just seems so impossible though, so I put it off until I got 1.3 recorded.
Yeah.
And then once I did, I started trying out everything. Like I tried out Tega's foot grip, I tried out just going really, really slow on level 0.
And what worked in the end for you?
That is not a question that is easy to answer because there were so many things that had to like change and go through. The big breakthrough moments for me rolling was that, and I think July or August, my family took a road trip all the way from Texas to like Massachusetts, Massachusetts, Vermont area and back.
Yeah.
And because we spent like sometimes like 8 to 10 hours on the road, what I would do in the car was just open up my emulator, connect my NES controller to my computer, and just go on level select screen. There and back, there and back, there and back.
Oh my god. Wow.
Just like I wrote like a Lua script for myself, or that would run in the emulator that would show me the exact spacing. And I just looked at that, tried to make sure that everything was even. Just so much like dedicated practice. I didn't want to like play any games because I was worried about the lag for an emulator.
Yeah, but just getting the feel on the level select screen.
Right. I definitely had to build up everything like one at a time, just like working on like doing each finger separately, trying different parts of the controller to see where it might be best.
So you do all this in the back of the car or in the front seat?
I had done like a fair bit of this practice beforehand, and I took a break for a while. But this was where I eventually figured out like 4 and 5 taps. And then afterwards I started experimenting with pressing the rotation buttons.
Oh, wow.
Like initially I thought that there was no way that I'd ever learn how to coordinate the rotation buttons while rolling. Like just the whole like pat your head, rub your tummy thing.
I guess that's everyone's initial reaction when they see someone roll.
Right. So I think what ended up working for me was just like figuring out like every single combination. Like I was like, okay, for 4 taps, I'm gonna go 1, 2, rotate 3, 4. For 3 taps with like double flips, I'm gonna align them. So I'll be like 1 and A, release, then like 2, then 3 and A at the same time. Just learning everything is like one motion instead of 2 disjoint things.
How do you try to stay motivated through all of that?
It's just mainly just like a shift in goals. Like I just, instead of like focusing on getting Tetrises, I'm focusing on getting like perfect rolls or like consistent 20 hertz.
I mean, I hear this and I'm getting like, oh my god, I don't even want to put my time towards it.
It's just like, I guess Tetris is like one of the few things that does this for me now. I think maybe the only thing right now that like I can hyper focus on this, but
yeah,
it's just like getting like consistent rolls and like good results just makes me feel good. So I'm just like sort of going for that.
And when did you felt comfortable using the roll style as one of your grips or your playing style during Tetris matches?
So I knew like from like early on when I started considering this that I would want to be tapping for most of the time, because I thought that it was a waste to just get rid of that when I'm so consistent with it, and also the fact that I misdrop every other piece. I misdropped every other piece at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't really make me feel great about using it full time. So I started like theory crafting like a way to switch my grip. But this is maybe not the easiest task because as you've seen, I play on a lap desk.
Yeah.
and getting that out of the way took a lot of like engineering. But once I figured out like a method for that, I started practicing by doing the grip switch, maybe like from like a level 26 start transition trainer.
Yeah.
But what was really the great idea was to play a game where I would do it after every single Tetris. So after every single Tetris, after one Tetris, I would go from tap to roll. After the next
Oh,
one, I go
wow.
from roll to tap. And then just repeat that over and over again. Just the most practice you could possibly get.
Just to get that muscle memory.
Just to get the muscle memory, yeah. And then once I maxed out with that, I felt okay with starting to use it in comp. And it still
And
wasn't great because competition is completely different and the nerves are just sky high
yeah.
when you're trying out something new.
Did you use rolling during CTWC 2021?
I try to, yes. And there was one moment in, I think, one of my matches versus Tetris Time where I was able to, like, I had misdropped and I knew that there was no way I could get something over with tap.
Yeah.
So I just switched over to roll. Like, I had to, like, I dropped 2 or 3 pieces in order to do so. And I got out of it.
You had to change plan because of a misdraw.
Right, exactly. So, but I wasn't able to use it to, like, my advantage, and it probably cost me at least one game. Just by switching over instead of, like, getting an extra Tetris.
Oh, yeah. You're still trying to figure out what's the right way or the right time to switch from tapping to rolling?
I think I have a pretty good idea in general. It's just the execution that needs some work. Related story regarding a match that happened yesterday. I lost a game against Miles because I was behind him by like 3,000 points into kill screen, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a good time to switch to rolling, and I couldn't chase him
Oh,
down with
man.
tapping. So it's the other problem too. There's a balance that has to be hit somewhere.
So sometimes it's a disadvantage that
Sometimes it's a disadvantage, sometimes it's an advantage, and I just need to work on it more.
But why not go for full roll?
I still make a lot of misdrops. I think it's
Yeah.
really hard for me to be like completely comfortable with it. Like part of the reason why I felt better going for straight lines was because even if I misdropped, I could recover.
Yeah.
And with tapping, I still do misdrop occasionally, but it's like much less and much more controlled. And it just feels better.
And ever thought about using DAS once again in your arsenal? That you will be a true hybrid?
Well, I do, because my playstyle, when you call me tap, I'm still using DAS for like 90% of the pieces. I guess like I'm like kind of a tribrid in the sense, but on the other hand, it's like I guess I'm like basically tap for levels 18 through 28 because I use that for all the important pieces, but it's like technicalities.
Let's go back to CTWC 2021. It's been a full year since CTWC 2020. You won Masters, you won CTL Division 1. With what kind of feeling did you sign up for CTWC? What was your goal for 2021?
I wanted to win.
That was your goal, like you knew you were capable to win.
For sure.
So how did you prepare for qualifying?
I think alongside my normal schedule, I had like 3 sessions where I did practice 2-hour qualifiers, but that was about it.
And then you qualified 4th seed. Were you satisfied with the result, or do you think at the end of qualifying week I could have gone 3rd seed, or I could potentially be 2nd seed, or maybe 1st seed?
I did better in that qualifier than in any of my practices by a long shot. So I felt really good about it. I remember looking at my bracket and thinking that it was actually very good. So I was at the end of qualifying, I was more than happy.
Were you surprised by that not only the cutoff score but the overall qualifying score got a boost? Let's put it in perspective. If you qualified with the same score as you did in 2020, you had 2 max outs, a 977k kicker. You would barely make the main bracket. You would have qualified.
That was just insane. That was something I could not comprehend.
I mean, you would have qualified seed number 63 if you qualified with the same result as 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, no, nobody was expecting this. I remember like people were like making predictions, like making lists of like all the people who could realistically get 2 max outs, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, some of them are gonna have bad days. There's no way.
Yeah.
And then they just kept on coming, and everything just got like higher and higher, and
I mean,
it was unreal.
some of the top players did have bad days, but others that maybe were lesser known got good days, and
Yeah,
still two max outs. I mean, the last one who has 2 max outs has a 886,000 kicker, so it's not that they play bad. It's just the rest was a bit better.
indeed.
So you got placed in a bracket with
Yeah.
Opox, Tetris Time, Clockworker, Melon Soda, Longboy, Mark, and Brighton. And I
Yeah.
heard some rumblings that it was the second easiest bracket of them all. Do you share that opinion or not?
I think, yeah, for the most parts. Like, not to throw shade at like any of the players there, but like every other bracket seemed to have like 3 people who were just revered in the community by everyone.
Yeah. Here, if you looked at the beginning of the top 64 bracket, it would have been you and Ben Opox.
Right. No, I did think that I had a really good shots at making it to the top 8 this time.
Yeah.
I may have gotten overconfident.
That your first 2 matches you won in a sweep. So you won
Right.
against Brighton and against Minnesota, you won in a sweep. And then, just like 2020, you were in the winner bracket finals. And just like 2020, you lost 3-1. You lost 3-1 against Tetris Time. What was your feeling after that match?
I think my mental was completely destroyed. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Did you even want to play for the rest of that tournament? Or
Yeah, for sure. I thought that I could bring it back.
Yeah.
Like, just like statistically, I figured that I could beat Tetris Time.
Yeah.
Twice in a row and just take it.
But now you're back at the losers bracket.
Right.
Like 2020, you faced off against someone who lost that first round match, fought their way through the loser bracket. In 2020, it was Quaid who lost in that first round match, fought their way to the loser bracket. In 2021, it was Mark. I mean, I love those. If you look at side by side, you won against Quaid in the decider, you won against Mark in the decider.
Indeed, yeah. I did notice the parallels.
When I research this, I love to see that. It's so funny to
Yeah.
to
My
see
favorite
that.
parallel between like the 2 CTWCs that were most recent was that like 4 or something of the top of the matches in the top 8 were the exact same results.
Yeah.
Dog defeated Andy, Andy defeated Nanu, Huff defeated Joseph, Dog defeated Huff.
Yeah.
It's like the
I mean,
more things change, the more they stay the same.
I mean, 5 of the 8 finalists were the same finalists as 2020.
Yeah, for sure.
But what was your plan going into the double finals against Tetris Time?
I really don't think I had much of a plan besides like score points. Like, it didn't help that like I was like kind of like psyching myself out a ton.
Yeah.
And like even like if I like make a lot of my placements like pretty good, I think my sense of aggression would have just been completely destroyed.
And then you lost against Tetris Time, 3-2.
I think it was like misdrops, like lack of control. Not my.
And was the
perfect
feeling different than in 2020 when you lost the bracket reset against Chiefs?
It felt so much worse. I think.
Why is that?
I expected a lot more of myself this time, like, because by this point I had like I think more or less established myself in the community.
Yeah.
As a quote unquote top player, and like I really like expected to make it to the top 8, and just like losing in the exact same way was just like, it just felt like losing control. And like playing Tetris well is like about like having control of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, if you lose control in Tetris, everything will fall apart quickly.
Yeah.
Is it one of the reasons why you switched to PAL after CTWC?
Not really. So like I remember like I like felt sad for about a week. I put away my NES. I swore never to play again. It lasted for about a week. before I realized, before I remembered that I really enjoyed playing the game.
You didn't feel like cheating?
What would I cheat?
Well, that you swore never to play NES Tetris again, and a week later you play NES Tetris again.
Or like, I like probably felt that I'd recover at some points, but I think I had intended to like stay off it for at least a week. But like by like
Yeah.
day 3 or 4, I wanted to play and just decided to wait it out of principle.
I mean, you were sick and tired of CTWC, of your loss at CTWC. Could you watch the remainder of the tournament, or didn't you watch at all?
Well, I think I was the last sub brackets to be played. I do think I sort of watched the top 8s, but not completely for some reason. I just kept on hearing results from Discord.
It's pretty much the same way how I watched CTWC. The top 8. It ended at 5 a.m. local time.
Really? Oh my gosh.
So I was awake, but I couldn't watch everything. So oh man, and I had to work like that Monday.
Oh.
So I had like sleep from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. I had 3 hours sleep and I had to work.
Yeah. I think I remember watching Ruins versus Joseph. I was very impressed by that match.
Yeah. Especially when it was the first match of CTWC, the top 8.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the greatest match of the top 8, in my opinion. Then you switched to PAL. And 2 weeks later, you broke the PAL 19 start line world record.
Yeah, so the switch was something that came very naturally. Because earlier that year, when I was moving to college, Van Dweller generously offered to loan me his retro USB AVS.
Yeah.
Which is great because now I don't have to bring a giant CRT into like my triple. But one of the other things is that I realized that I could play PAL.
Was this something that you wanted to play?
Yeah, absolutely. I love PAL. Like, I've messed around with it back in emulator, but when I switched over to console, I didn't see a reason to go back for a while.
Yeah.
But now that I had a console that could play PAL, it just felt like the first thing to do. And I could roll, so maybe I could like get some like good results.
The sky is the limit there.
I do think that PAL DAS on 19 is one of the most fun modes. It just feels really sad. It just feels really satisfying to play and get a lot of lines on.
I commentated Murke when Murke got the DAS world record.
Oh, the 800K?
I think 900K, I guess. I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it was 900K.
Was during the low Puck Cup, the top 8. And it was against my Winkers, and I was commentating that match, and it's so satisfying to see. I think Killscreen, both NTSC and PAL are satisfying to see. Like, if you can go for world record, go for world record, obviously.
For sure.
And generally, I'm not a fan of games that goes to Mullen mode. But I guess if you go for world record, or can go for world record, and you pull it off, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world.
No. I mean, Murke was on max out pace, but
yeah,
in the end,
that is ridiculous.
It didn't work out. But you had the AVS console of Van Dweller, you had an EverDrive, and you had PAL mode on your console. You had a PAL ROM on your EverDrive, and you wanted to play CTEC. And CTEC didn't allow an EverDrive. So how did you work around that?
I was never really worried about this because I figured I could ask around people, and by then I had gotten enough like notoriety in the community that I figured it wouldn't be that bad. I ended up getting one from Kingsman.
Nice.
It was really nice of him. Yeah, we both lived in the East Coast at the time, so just asked him. They kept training on my ROM in the meantime.
Then CTEC came, and you won your group stage. And the funny thing is, your first match was against seed number 32. You qualified as seed number 1. Your first match was against seed number 32. Was against El Python.
Oh yeah.
To many known as the failure of classic Tetris, the Daredevil, whatever, managed to clutch into CTEC and faced off against you.
It's the Joseph versus Moodus of.
It definitely was the Joseph versus Moodus. I mean, you could feel all the hate against you and rooting for Alp because they wanted Alp to win so bad.
Yeah.
I know for a fact Alp wasn't happy with that match. He knew he was going to lose, and he was happy if he took a game of you, but he knew he was going to lose because.
Oh no.
But he wanted to play the best he could against you, and he said, my warm-up was great, and then in the match itself, I had 300k, 400k, 300k.
Yeah, it just happens. I know that feeling.
And he was devastated about that match. And then you played against Rocco
Yeah.
Ricci, another Dutchie. You won 4-2. You go to your bracket final. You play against Tuki. You win that.
Oh, that match was insane.
It was. Give your thoughts on that match.
I did not expect him to be like consistent level 24. Like it was just like 600Ks like every game for him, it felt. And then I think I had to chase down on a number of them, I think, on kill screen.
Yeah.
That was like really, really scary because my first time like seriously doing that in like a PAL match of all things.
But was it here that, or is it here that your transition from the tapping grip or the way you hold your controller when you dash and tap to rolling, do you have more of a disadvantage in PAL matches than you do at NTSC matches?
I don't think so because I think my PAL is generally like my PAL 18 is generally good, and I wanted to like take advantage of that as much as possible. And I think on that day in particular, the grip switch was working out really well.
So you beat Tuki 4-1. Tuki got relegated to the losers bracket. You were alongside with Poet, otherwise known as Hybrids, Sidnev and Jasper, Tag and Mac. You were placed in the winners bracket during top 8. You played against the Poets in the first round of the top 8. It got to a decider 4-3. It was an amazing match to watch.
I had to like win the last 3 matches in a row, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but that was a big confidence booster for me, just being able to clutch that out with the mental.
And then you faced off against Sidnev, and Sidnev was seed number 2. Everyone knew Sidnev was going to be your main rival going into this tournament, and we knew it was double elimination, so you might have to face off against each other once again in the finals.
Yeah.
So, but winning that winner bracket final match against Sidnev, what did that to you?
It just felt real. I just felt really close to the end. Like, I figured that like I could play better, maybe in the finals. That he could for sure.
Yeah,
I was feeling pretty confident at the time.
So Sidnev got relegated to the loser bracket, won in a sweep once again against Tagamak, and you face off against each other once again in the finals. It's a best of 9 match, first to 5. Take us through that match, if you can.
He just went nuts. I still like cannot believe like the performance that he pulled off. I think that's my mental, like my strategy for playing post 19 was still a bit unrefined. I wanted to Tetris more, and that led me to top outs.
Yeah.
On several games, but I also was not expecting him to like last for that long every single match.
He took you deep into 19 play.
Right.
Pretty much every single game.
He was just getting 700s, 800s all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I was not I was just not expecting that from him.
But did you feel the pressure knowing that you're the PAL world record holder at the time, 2.1 million score? Did you feel the pressure of I need to win this tournament?
I don't know. Like I think on the one hand, it felt like I was just having a great time. Like I remember
Yeah.
like feeling that it was like really fun regardless. But also after Sidev forced the bracket resets, I was
Yeah.
beginning to think that like I was in trouble because the fatigue issues that had plagued me in like other tournaments, like the CTWCs,
Yeah.
were definitely like there by now with like all of the PAL matches, and he was just only getting better. So I think it was like around that point that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna put up some like good games, but whatever happens, happens.
I mean, the bracket reset, both matches in the finals were intense.
Oh my god,
Honest,
yeah,
it could have gone either way.
could have for sure.
So now looking back at CTEC, what is your reaction or your feeling about it?
I mean, I wish I won, but like I think I'm not really unhappy with losing because the performance that like Sidnev was putting up was something that's I didn't think I was capable of at the time.
Yeah.
So like in terms of consistency, like I had just been focusing on 19 before, so I think overall I was fine with it. I think
Yeah.
at some point I want to play in CTEC again, and this may or may not involve me going to Europe.
Oh, let's go.
It would be like really be like really ambitious, like given that like it might overlap with college and
Ah,
everything.
screw
But
college. Screw college. Let's go to Europe.
college. Yes. Yeah, and like not to mention the travel, but I think it would be fun. I haven't been to Europe in a while.
I mean, the atmosphere is completely different than a
Oh, that is yeah, that's
CTWC.
definitely something I want to experience. The CTEC 2019 videos are like some of my favorites on the channel. Just like listening to the crowd. I'm curious how I would react to that. It just sounded like a really good time.
Have you ever been to a live tournament, Tetris tournament?
I never. The closest thing was a few weeks ago. Aaron, who lives like maybe 20 to 30 minutes away from me,
Yeah.
brought me to his school where they were having a special seminar day. And the
Yeah.
seminar that Aaron was holding was a Tetris exhibition match.
Oh,
That's the closest thing I've ever had.
you versus Aaron.
Me versus Aaron. Yeah, it was fun. I chased him down 150k points in kill screen.
Do we want to know who won?
It was 3-2 my victory.
Nice, nice. But do you
Yeah,
plan to go to live events when they are near you?
there's one in Austin when I'm home for the summer. I really want to go to that. I don't think the East Coast really has any, unfortunately, since Replay FX I think is shut down. I think there's one at a similar time, like August, which is in Arizona, and like that's a bit far, but
In
maybe
Phoenix, yeah.
possible in theory.
I know Game Scout with his girlfriend Junior are going there.
Yeah.
Matt and Ashley Martin are going there. I know Chris Tang is going to be there.
Oh. Okay. We will see.
And Steve DeLuca, I think Vince. It's going to be a mini CTWC. But if CTWC is live in Portland,
I will go. I will make time.
just screw it. Then arrive on Saturday morning and I go.
I would want the full experience. I'd enjoy the expo. Make sure this like as long as I'm able to plan ahead months in advance, I just arrange the proper things with my school and just see like try and take care of homework early.
It will be amazing to see you at Portland. I think it would be amazing to
Yeah.
see the current top players in Portland playing at
all the same.
CTWC. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that's we get it this year.
So Fractal, we need to talk about going to the colors.
Ah, yes.
February 27, 2022. You are the first player who got to the true colors of NES Tetris.
True color. I like the sound of that.
I mean, it's there for a reason, I guess.
It's there because nobody like it's just a bug that nobody figured out because the kind of person would ever go there. But yeah, it was a pipe dream, just like so long.
When, how, and where did you decide you want to go for colors?
So I think at this time, I either had 29 lines record on NTSC or was like the former world record holder. So I knew that like 200 or 300 was like the NTSC record. So I was like definitely aiming to beat that on PAL 19. All right. And initially I just wanted to like try and go for lines because that was just my inclination and I figured the score would come immediately. So I don't remember the timetable on this, but I think I got like 400 something lines. That was
Yeah, late October.
yeah, and then my 653 lines game was my first max out. No, that was my second max out, like a 1.2.
You got October 26th, 465 lines. October 28th, 518 lines. November 1, 653 lines.
Yeah, and it was at that point I was like, wait, I'm like halfway to glitch colors, or like
Yeah.
slightly less. So at that point, I had no business like even considering a grind for that. Because
Yeah.
like getting there halfway once is nothing in the spans of like doubling that. Just the probabilities are nowhere close to what's possible.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few days afterwards, or maybe like a week afterwards, I got the 893.
2 days later.
2 days later, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and that's like basically 2/3 of the way there. And at that point, I was like, I'm improving really, really fast.
Yeah.
This is maybe possible. I then like proceeded to like not beat that for like a long time.
A month and a week. 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right. So that day, it was either the first or second day of what I called the final color grind. So this was after CTEC. I was like, okay, it is time for me to dedicate all of my time to just going for this.
So no NTSC Tetris, no competition in PAL, just grinding out 19 starts, lining it out to 1,320 lines.
Right. I thought I would get it done within the week because I figured that was all the time I would need.
You came close. First day, 1,034 lines. 1,043 lines. 3 days later,
1,292.
yeah.
It was that day was mental. I missed it to a 3-tap to the right, which I'd probably gotten like dozens of times earlier in the run. I didn't really feel crushed by it though, because for whatever reason, I was just able to like view this as a matter of probabilities.
It's like the one of max out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, if I can get there far this time, and like getting 2 1,000 line games like so close to each other was super encouraging, because
Yeah.
that suggests consistency. So I was like, I'll just get it again. But then a lot of stuff happened. I had to go back home, which I think really threw off my setup.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get any good runs then. And then there was a lot of times when I went back where I just couldn't figure out how I had the consistency from before.
Mm-hmm.
I started like having to take like more breaks because of school.
Yeah.
It was just kind of all over the place. I don't regret any of it. I think having the grind go out as long as it did was incredibly good for me.
You build up a lot of hype.
I built up a lot. Yeah, that is one consequence of it. But another was that's because I had to deal with my controller. Just like for some reason, it felt like it just like gave up on me. I had to deal with this like losing like all sense of control. This forced me to learn everything over again from the ground up.
No.
Or well, it wasn't that bad. Like it just forced me to like just like start trying out new stuff again instead of just like assuming that I had everything down.
All that muscle memory. You just need to forget that, basically.
Or yeah, it's just learning everything over again. And I feel like once I overcame that, because I eventually did, I was just so much better. The other important thing, and this is like I think one reason why just being able to practice on PAL was just such a fantastic opportunity, was that I learned different techniques that were easier for me to practice because I was playing on slower speeds. Most important was learning how to 6-tap with rolling, which is to use my normal 5 fingers and then the other thumb presses one last time.
On the D-pad itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this just like made me so much more consistent. If I had known this like on day 4 when I got the 1292,
Yeah.
I basically would not have missed that because I would have had a backup tap.
Oh, you use that 6-tap to, if you overshoot a 4-tap and do a 5-tap, you can redo that.
Yeah. It's an extra buffer. It's a way to handle errors and have it still be okay.
But are you using it as a replacement of a 4-tap or just as a last second solution?
So let's say I try and do a 5-tap, but I miss something for whatever reason. Maybe
Yeah.
one finger just doesn't hit hard enough. Maybe 2 fingers are too close to each other.
Yeah.
I could use that 6th finger to make up for the earlier mistake. And just being able to do that, like because the cause of death is always misdrops at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I could like cut down on like literally like maybe like 50 to 80% of all my misdrops. Just
Oh, wow.
by doing that. And that is incredible. Another thing was that I think I learned how to stack so much better
Yeah.
on PAL 19 just because I had the time to think about my decisions and I spent a lot of time just making placements and seeing the consequences.
How many stream sessions did you have? Like 38, 37 or something like that?
37, I want to say. And I estimate that within all that time, I cleared somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 lines.
Oh, boy. Oh, wow. That's a lot.
All for just 1,000 lines of glory.
But how do you stay hyper focused for like 40 minutes plus?
Well, part of it, I think, was the realization that I shouldn't be hyper-focused. Because I only have so much like mental energy before it really starts to drain. And I
Yeah.
think this is part of what makes the last 320 lines so difficult for me. I had to make it to 1,000 lines, I think 11 or 12 different times before I got the good run.
Yeah.
So one of the earliest things that I did when I started out the grind was, okay, I'm not looking at chats when I'm doing runs.
Mm-hmm.
Because chat's distracting, I don't need to be distracted.
Yeah.
I discovered later that I do in fact need to be distracted. Because talking to chats is like means that I'm not like overanalyzing everything.
You just go with what feels right.
Right, exactly. And at that point, my stacking had gotten good enough so that this wouldn't kill me.
Yeah.
And it also makes for a more entertaining video, I think. All the timestamps that it puts.
But is it something that we can see in NTSC?
It's subtle, but I think definitely important. So one thing is that when I was playing on PAL, I learned like incredibly like good finger control. To
Yeah.
the point where getting like a perfect 30 hertz roll felt standard. Or a perfect 25 hertz roll, sorry, because this is PAL.
Yeah.
Felt standard and natural. And this like level of like being able to space out my taps, I think, was really good for my consistency when I switched back.
Yeah.
Another thing that I had started doing in the PAL grinds, just like as a warm up and a way to focus on something else, was to go for pace and try and get like say earliest max outs.
Yeah.
And this taught me Tetris stacking. And right now, my PBs on 29 score are like really, really heavily focused on right rolling and Tetris stacking.
Potentially Linecap in the back of your mind, knowing that you should go for pace on 29.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you learn from the PAL grinds? Like you knew stacking because you won Masters, you won Division 1 in CTL. You can't win those if you don't know how to stack, if you don't have the theory about stacking.
I think the PAL grind like challenged a lot of what I'd assumed was like fundamental about my playing and like what was needed to play well. I've
Yeah.
already talked about all the extra techniques for rolling that I learned, all the consistency.
Yeah.
The type of stacking on level 29 is different from level 19 or 18 because you can't really do adjustments, and that had become such an important part of my normal play. That's unlearning the need to do those was very beneficial. And yeah, I think just all of that's like, it was definitely brutal. It's made me not want to go for lines for a while now, just thinking about kind of grinds, but it made me a better player dramatically.
And you use all that knowledge that you gathered over that 5-month period that you didn't play NTSC. You only focused on PAL. You played.
It was actually 5 months.
It was 5 months. If you
my
look
God.
at your match,
Yeah,
if you look at
you're
your
right.
match database, you played. You lost against Tetris Time on the 17th of October in 2021, and you
Did not
played
realize it was long. Oh my
against
gosh.
Tekemag and Miles on the 20th of March of 2022. But it's not like you didn't play any NTSC Tetris during your Glitch Color grind.
Right. I was worried that my timings that I had like so like finely calibrated specifically for PAL would just be immediately just like destroyed if I tried playing NTSC for a bit. I didn't want to have to deal with that risk.
Day after you got that glitch colors, you qualified for CTM.
I do think maybe my fear was a bit overblown, but it did take me like several days afterwards to really get adjusted to level 29.
I mean, your first seat in CTM.
Yeah. And I got a 1.4 during my qualifier. I cannot believe that.
And in what way did that PAL grind help you with your NTSC play?
Learning whenever like you're trying to like train for like something, like I guess like playing an instrument is the obvious example. You want to like start out slow and then get faster over time. I think there's similar logic to be had here. All right, it's like learning to make decisions at a slower speed is a bit more comfortable. Lets me ease into like making good decisions quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think overall, just like especially like applying to like Tetris stacking for sure. Being able to like being forced to like roll at a slower speed and a more controlled rates was also really good, because I think finger control is the most important thing that you can have.
Yeah.
When it comes to rolling.
So is now the plan to play both NTSC and PAL, or do you want to focus now on NTSC for the foreseeable future?
I want to focus on NTSC for the foreseeable future.
And what are your goals for 2022 then?
The really ambitious one is to get every world record on the leaderboard.
18-star, 19-star, 29-star lines.
Maybe not earliest max, since that's so difficult, but I do want to like try and like push NTSC 29 really, really, really high.
Yeah.
After that, I have like a bunch of like challenges that I want to try and complete for myself.
Like?
So, one example is the Drought Hack max out. Drought Hack is a Game Genie code combination.
Yeah.
That makes the probability of getting a long bar like 4% or something. And I've had the record on this for a while, and it's like getting a max out on that would just be like an absolute dream. The other thing, which is an artificial challenge that I have invented, is that I want to max out from every single level, 0 to 255.
Oh, really?
Yes. I think I could do it too. Like once I'm able to max out on 29, then it's just a matter of going through everything. And I will of course be like disabling the game crash at the very end, because nobody wants to deal with that. But I will keep the colors, so I'll have a lot of experience with every single color.
Oh man.
That's I think a long ways off. I want to just focus on more conventional modes after like sticking with like maybe a less hotly contested category for so long. It's just a different shift from like pushing myself much further than like I needed to.
Why?
So the challenges, I think they're just fun. I think that if people complain about like the main game getting stale, I want to like show them that there's still like a lot of other really interesting things that you can do with the game.
Yeah.
Different skills, like demonstrations of consistency or whatever. And like at the end of the day, I'll play 18 starts all day long, because with tap, because that's just what I enjoy doing.
I mean, that was going to be my last question. What do you think you can achieve in 2022? Or is it with that PAL glitch color run you have achieved what you wanted to achieve for 2022?
I mean, I want like everything now. Like I'm sure I'll be humbled by like tournament results or whatever. But I'm feeling like my skill in NTSC is very much like an unknown right now.
Yeah.
Because I've been sort of out of that aspect of the game for so long, but I'm back now,
yeah.
and I'm only gonna get better from here. So I want to try and get world records. I want to try and win CTMs and CTLs. I want CTWC 2022. That would be the pinnacle of everything.
And afterwards, you will win CTEC 2022. Fractal, thank you so much for joining me on a Peace Dependency podcast this month. It was a blessing to have you on.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to have me.
And with that all being said, this will be the end of the Peace Dependency podcast. Thank you all for listening, and make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget to join the Tetris Friendlies Discord server and follow me on the socials @SirMazer. For now, have a great Tetris month, and we'll see you all in May. Bye! The Peace Dependency Podcast was brought to you by Total Red NES. Shop your Goofy Food Controller TWO merch and CTWC approved hardware on TotalRedNES.com.